And we are back to discuss, some of the things we've been watching and keeping an eye out on the news. And first and foremost, I think we have to talk about Moon Knight.
Oh
Moon
yeah.
Knight I don't have, I'm going to disappoint you, Preston. I don't have much to say on it except that I really, really like it. For me right now, as all the Marvel Disney shows so far have come
hmm
out, this has got to be second place. Loki, number one at the top. I love Loki. Moon Knight, got to take that second spot slot because Moon Knight is
Yeah.
just so fun. It's so great.
That's that's the weird thing as well. Is Moon Knight is very flawed, right? It's totally inconsistent. It's all over the place. It's
You think so?
it's
Really?
the plot doesn't really make too much sense, but at the same time, it's just so much fun and it's so interesting. I mean, I think that it works because there's a schizophrenia theme with the character. I think
Mm-hmm.
it works that the episodes are completely totally different from each other and the plot is all over the place, and I think that works really well. There's some things I really loved. I really loved how in the first few episodes we kind of have the missing pieces of his life from Steven's perspective, and then later there's an episode where there's missing pieces of life from Mark's perspective, and you know how
Mm-hmm.
like everything goes black and then everybody's on the ground and he's like, what, how did this happen? And I love the fact that it happens for Steven and it happens for Mark later, and neither one of them is fully aware of what's going on. And it's also incredibly accurate. I've never seen a Western portrayal of Cairo done so well,
Oh,
which is
really?
really quite. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and it makes sense. Well, one of the directors is Egyptian, so there's
Mm-hmm.
just so many little things. Like the characters are actually speaking Egyptian Arabic, like not even like a lot of times you'll watch a movie and it'll take place in Iraq and the characters are speaking modern standard Arabic, and you're like, no, they wouldn't. No one would be speaking modern standard Arabic. Okay, you'd be modern standard Arabic is like what you're taught in school, and so like on the news and academics speak modern standard Arabic, but like in a village or on the street, like everybody speaks their local languages. It's and keep in mind like the different Arabics are as different as Romance languages from each other. So like you know take something like Levantine Arabic, which is what they speak in like Syria and Jordan, Palestine, and Lebanon, and that's as different to Egyptian Arabic as say maybe Portuguese and Spanish. So like
Mm.
you can kind of pick up some things, but it's pretty different. Though a lot of people watch Egyptian movies, and so they kind of are used to Egyptian Arabic. So you can kind of get away with speaking Egyptian Arabic different places because everybody's watched Egyptian movies. But it's like you, Carmine, like going into a Spanish speaking country. Like you can kind of get the gist of what people are saying, but it's a little off, right?
Yeah,
Because you
for the
speak Portuguese, yeah.
right. I understand bits and pieces here. I can piece it together, but for the most part, I don't really understand Spanish that much. So, but I get what you mean.
Yeah. So it's pretty like in the conversation, like the conversations you see in the background, they're actually speaking Egyptian Arabic, and just a lot of portrayals of Cairo, just the way people dress, the way people like the foods they're eating. Like in one of the scenes, she's like drinking a bag of blackberry juice, which is like totally Egyptian, like she was actually in this part of Cairo called Khan al Khalili, which is so there's some fun stuff, just the way the buildings will look, like the way the city looks, everything. Like it's done really really well. Of
Well,
course, later they do some filming off. Later they do filming in Jordan. It's clearly Wadi Rum and Petra and stuff. But I really did love the Cairo stuff.
that's great that they're putting like extra like effort into the authenticity of like where they are, where the
Oh
characters are. So
yeah,
that's awesome. Um,
there's a scene where they're on a party boat, which is like a party boat is like a very Cairo thing. And they take this pirate party boat to like this weird island where there's this mansion on the island that's very Cairo as well. Like you can just go to random islands and then all of a sudden one of these islands will be like a palace of somebody's and you're like, what the hell? Like in the middle of the Nile. Like the city is so poor and then all of a sudden this person has this like palace in the middle of the Nile. Yeah, that kind of stuff is where like people would be like jousting. Yeah, that's the weird shit. Like Cairo is a weird bonkers city where there's so much strange stuff behind closed doors where you're like, oh, I'm in the middle of a slum. And it's like, actually knock on this door, knock, knock, knock. You go in, you go down a hallway, you go down some steps, you go down another hallway, you go up some steps, you go down another hallway and you knock on a door. And then all of a sudden you're in like some palatial fancy restaurant with like chandeliers. And you're like, what? How? What? Like Cairo is bonkers. And I love the fact that they made Cairo like as it is, like, yeah. But anyway, kudos for the detail. So, like, but it comes with the Egyptian director. Anyway, I just loved it, but it was great.
No, I like it even more now because like the extra effort and the authenticity. But I will say though, my one issue with the show, and it's a small one, but it's an issue for like it's been a problem for a long time for me whenever we talk about Marvel shows or movies. The villain, and specifically their powers, sometimes are just so boring. Like, for example, Arthur Harrow's abilities, which also come from a magician god, is just a dark, mirrored version of Moon Knight. And that's kind of lame. That's my one issue with it. Like granted, Ethan Hawke, he's killing it. He's been knocking it out of the park lately. I loved him in Northman, and I like him here. He's not my favorite actor, but he's one of those actors where whenever I see him, I'm like, you know what, good on you, man. You're getting work, getting paid, good job. But, no, I just wish that Marvel gave us villains whose abilities were just different than the hero's abilities. Not like a dark mirrored version, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you're right that almost the standard Marvel villain is essentially the hero, just different, right? It's Ant-Man and then it's Yellow Jacket. They both have the ability to shrink, and
you remember
fight each other.
The villain from Ant-Man's Day? I totally forgot like who it was. I just know he was like very
I
greedy.
read I read the comics, so
right.
I'm familiar with a lot of these characters from growing up with them. But but for the most part, most people are just fighting a dark version of themselves, right?
Yeah, I don't like that.
Wanda fights another witch. Who else? Like Captain America fights another super soldier. Iron Man fights another Iron Man. It's always like that, right? And so Ethan Hawke was another Avatar, but I do appreciate that like at this moment they're very different characters. Like Ethan Hawke isn't putting on some mummy outfit. He's got just a cult behind him, and his advantage is he has the cult, and Mark and Steven are on their own, right? So I mean, it's true that they're kind of mirror images of each other because they were both avatars, but I guess currently they don't have the same powers.
Well, what I will say that I do like about Harrow is just his motivations are based off ideology instead of the usual Marvel villain like standard, which is either greed or revenge. Like you mentioned, the Iron Man 1 villain, Ironmonger guy, he was driven by greed, bit of revenge for some reason. And then Whiplash in Iron Man 2, that was revenge. And then the Ant-Man villain, Yellow Jacket, that was greed. And then you go to Thor, Dark World, that I think that was revenge or some shit. But then you have like the nuanced villains like Loki and Thanos, which actually stand out. But
I think Ethan Hawke here is more similar to Thanos in the sense that he's got a moral position that's almost right but not right, like you understand where he's coming from, but he's wrong. Like I think that those are the best villains where you have a villain that's close, that he's close to being correct and then is just like off a little bit, which causes calamity. By the way, my favorite Ethan Hawke movie is Before Sunset. So, have you seen any of the Before movies?
I don't think I have. No, let me see here. Before movies. First off, let me find Ethan Hawke because I've seen a couple of movies he was in.
it's a trilogy: Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight, and they're all filmed 9 years apart. And the stories take place 9 years apart. So
Oh,
it's
really? That's actually cool.
yeah, yeah, it's Richard Linklater stuff, and he just it's I think the second movie is the strongest, but it's the first movie has to do with, Ethan Hawke's a young guy in his early 20s, and he meets this French girl in his early 20s, and they spend an evening together, and that's the whole movie. And then the second movie is they run into each other 9 years later, and then and the third movie takes place 9 years after that, and it's I it's funny because it's like I watched each movie when I was kind of the age of Ethan Hawke in all of them, and so I really connected to them. They're very of that age, But if you watch them when you're not that age, you don't necessarily connect with them as much. Like if you're not if you're not in your early 20s and you watch Before Sunrise, it's not as good as when you're that age, because the conversations they have, the conversations they have are very true to that age. So if you're older than that, you're like, these kids are so stupid. You're like, but if you're of that age, you're like, oh yeah, those are really deep conversations, like. So it's yeah, they're really great movies, but but I don't know.
Oh,
we're off
for me,
track.
I
I'm
liked.
sorry.
No, you're fine. For me, I love them in Training Day, because Denzel's the man, and I liked him in a movie you kind of recommended to me actually. In one of your videos, you copied the opening scene from Lord of War. And I commented on it, and you were like, "Yeah, no, this is from like Lord of War, a Nicolas Cage film." I'm like, "Oh, Nicolas Cage! I love Nicolas Cage. This sounds interesting." And Ethan Hawke, Lord of War. So I like that one too with him. But I haven't seen that. I haven't seen the ones you saw. Was he in Black Hawk Down? I feel like he was. No, he wasn't in Black Hawk Down.
No, I don't think so. But yeah, no, those three that trilogy is definitely worth your time if you have the time, if you've got 6 hours to kill.
Dude, I got so much on the back burner. It's ridiculous. But Ethan Hawke, good villain. I just wish his powers were a little different. But other than that, the show Moon Knight, I highly recommend it to anybody who's like, because when Moon Knight was first announced like a couple of years ago, I was like, ugh, Moon Knight, what the fuck is this? And now I'm like, oh, Moon Knight, here we go. It's so far I really like it. Oscar Isaac, these representing the Latinos. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and he's and maybe I mean, I'm not British, so to a British person, they're probably like, "Oh my God, his impression of us is ridiculously bad." But
really,
to an American, it seems great, right? Like he actually goes into
awesome.
the British humor and the British, but I'm sure maybe it's probably to a British person, it's not quite on the mark. But I do think it's funny that he goes into the same British style of like British sitcoms and stuff like that, and what the British cringe humor, and just I think it's hilariously. To me, it's well done, but again, a Brit would probably be like, no.
It's funny because after I watched the show, I know there's like an entire cast besides Oscar Isaac, but all I really come away with is just remembering Oscar Isaac, and he really holds up this show. He really does, and he's just such a good actor. I loved him in Ex Machina. I loved him in what's the other one? I'm it's on the tip of my Dune, where he was Duke Leto. He was great in that.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what's great about him is he's got such a great range.
Yeah,
there's a couple different types of actors. Like there's actors that play one role and they're so good at that role that they just play that role over and over again. Like Jack Nicholson or Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Like not that those actors can't do the other stuff, because if you look at Jack Nicholson and Al Pacino's early stuff, it's very different. Like Al Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon is not Al Pacino. He's not hoo-wah, Al Pacino. He's not. And like early Jack Nicholson is the same. Like he's not like, hey, I'm Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson played Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors early in his career, and if that's like something to think like is a different kind of range. But like then eventually they kind of settle into their character, and then they just oh, we need Jack Nicholson, oh, he's going to play Jack Nicholson.
For me, that's who played Batman in the fourth Batman film before they rebooted. For me, that's wow, his name George Clooney. George Clooney's just himself in every film. Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Just
You're
himself
right.
in every
I
film.
mean, he's always this. I'm trying to think of yeah, and then so there's just he's always the suave, cool, collected, smart guy. And so certain people just have that. Like my friend PJ, James Ranson, like he always plays like the fidgety asshole like character.
The kid from The Wire season 2.
Yeah, the kid from The Wire season 2, or he was in It Part 2 and stuff like that. Like he always plays the same character, but it's like he found a character, and when they want that character, they order him, and he's going to play that character.
They order him.
So, but like it's incredible how good Oscar Isaac is at the different characters, right? Like going from Steven to Mark, and them being like they almost feel like they're two different actors because he's so good at just playing the two different guys. So yeah, no, I mean bravo to him.
Oscar Isaac, great. Ethan Hawke, great villain. But speaking of villain, we got to talk about George R.R. Martin. Did you see? Yes, now he's become villain now for me. Did you see the thing I sent you? The meme I sent you?
Yes, yeah, I did.
So
for
those,
we'll post it here, but yeah, let's go into it.
So if you're not following me on Twitter, which you should be, twitter.com/redteamreview, I posted something. George recently did an update on his blog, and let me go to my Twitter real quick and read it off for you guys. The title of the blog, not gonna lie, got me hyped as fuck, because the title was "The Winds of June." And the blurb, like synopsis little thing of it on the top was, "The dark winds will start blowing in June. June 12th to be precise." It's here. It's happening. Winds of Winter. Let's go. Let's go. And you read further, and well, that's the day that The Dark Winds, a new series based on the classic best-selling Navajo detective novels by Tony Hillerman, will premiere on AMC and AMC Plus. I have blogged about the show before, but this is the first time we had a release date. You motherfucker! You knew what you were doing. He knows.
Oh
what
yeah,
he's doing.
he did.
This
and what's
asshole.
funny, I mean, look, Dark Winds actually looks like it's going to be an interesting show, but you don't do that. Like, what is he doing? What is he doing? I mean, I'd almost be like, okay, it's such a dick move that you almost like have hope. Like, wait, he wouldn't do such a dick move unless he actually had like the Winds of Winter like close, right? And it's like, no, it's just a fucking dick move, right?
I was about to say, like, that sounds like some copium, but yeah, no, he.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, because I mean, he's still pulling this whole like, well, you're not gonna get Winds of Winter, but I've got all these other things that you're gonna like, and it's like, no, we want fucking Winds of Winter. Like, yeah, no, saying like the Winds of June, dark winds. It's got the word winds in it. Like, come on, like, no. Like,
honestly, I would respect him more.
Don't get people's hopes up.
I would respect him more if all of a sudden he bursted out like in the middle of this whole thing with a Raid Shadow Legends promo, because at least then I would like respect you a little bit more for getting that money. But fuck you, man. I don't wish death on George. That's a little too much. But I wish the next worst thing is next time you go to McDonald's, I hope they forget your mac sauce, you motherfucker. God, asshole.
Oh God.
But no, like he
brutal.
did this, like
pretty brutal. It's just like it's almost like he's torturing people.
I think
like
he's a little annoyed.
Yeah.
This sounds like someone who's like a little annoyed with the fans, a little bit, because we keep pestering him, a little bit, but just a tad.
Torturing his fans. It's just torturing his fans like that. Well, I don't know why would you do it? It's just a little.
You have no idea how hyped I got.
It's a little dumb.
It is.
No, I mean it's really no. I saw that. I saw when you sent it to me. I was like, oh, that's a curious title. But I wasn't fooled. I was like, no.
Oh,
Well,
no.
First of all, had it been the real thing, I think we would have known. It's sort of like, you know, New York City is nuked. Like you're gonna get an alert on your phone or something, right? Like there's gotta be. Winds of Winter is announced, like every news outlet would be like posting something on it, and everybody would be emailing me and sending me shit, like everybody, and it'd be like, okay. So when you sent me that, and I was like, yeah, no, this is
No, that's not it.
Bad news. Bad news.
I even went on Twitter. It wasn't even trending. I'm like, something's going on here. Something's not right. Yeah, they'll be trending on Twitter. It'd be one of the most trended things ever of all fucking time. But so yeah, George, fuck you, you asshole. How dare you? How dare you do this? How dare you do this? But no, the show looks good. Dark Winds it looks cool. Good on them.
It does. It looks like it's a very cool premise. But yeah, it's just what was he thinking? The Winds of June.
But speaking of shows that are upcoming, you've been watching a couple of new things. I've been watching a couple of new things as well, and I guarantee the audience it's none of the stuff you want us to watch. But we're still watching it. We're still wanted. You had a couple of things that you were checking out that you wanted to.
Let's see what I've been writing. I've been watching Dark, and trying to get through.
Should
Dark.
I get on that too?
If you have patience, it's good, but it's slow. So you've got to know that it's like slow. But so Dark for people that don't know is a German sci-fi show about time travel, and it's about a small town and time travel, and it's as time goes on, the plot gets more and more intricate, where you're just like, oh my god, like this is getting confusing, because there's a lot of characters, and they start affecting each other over different time periods and stuff like this. So, but at the same, and it's not that I don't like, I like all the actors, I like all the characters, like I'm excited about seeing what's going to happen next. But at the same time, it's very dreary and very slow and very dour. I mean, keep in mind, Germany is pretty dreary and rainy. So like it is just Germany. Like but at the same time, like, I mean, I lived in Germany 3 years, and yeah, it rained a lot. It rained a lot, but it's just constantly overcast and raining in the show. And I'm like, oh, it's just so Germany. And it's true, it is really Germany. But at the same time, you're just like, oh god, like every scene is just kind of sad and depressing and slow moving and dour, and all the characters are depressed, and they're all like talking to each other in the most depressed way. Like nobody's in a good mood ever. Like every so it's a little hard to watch and a little draining to watch because all the characters are all depressed in a depressing, like sad, overcast, like rainy environment. Like every single episode, like, and you don't get a break. You don't get anything that's fun. You don't get anything that's cheery. There's no like, there's no moments like that. It's not like everything is serious, constantly. I
heard it was like
it's just
darker
drama.
Well, is it a darker? So from what I keep hearing, it's a darker version of Stranger Things.
No, like if you only watch the first episode, I could see someone saying that, because it's in a small town, and it involves missing children, and it involves science fiction, and it involves the 80s, Okay. And so you could, if you only watch the first episode, you could make that jump. But if you went any further than the first episode, you'd be like, no, this is nothing like Stranger Things. Stranger Things is so much more fun. They're cracking jokes in Stranger Things. The characters are fun. There's adventure. There's sunshine. There's things like that. Yeah, there's dark things, but they're like, Stranger Things has a whole range of emotions like and feelings all over the map. You know, there's none of that. There's no joy of childhood in Dark. It reminds you that of like all the bad parts of childhood. You're like it's all accurate. You're just like, oh yeah, no, oh yeah, childhood sucked. Like, you know,
Oh,
like,
Jesus.
because it's a lot about, it's about parents and children, and so like you get to see like really accurate things about, like, you know, all of that. But it's there's nothing, there's it's you know, keep in mind that like Stranger Things, like Goonies is a big influence on Stranger Things, like the you know, the adventurousness of being, you know, a little kid and like exploring the neighborhood searching for, you know, sunken treasure, or you know, or you know, tree houses and adventure and riding bikes and, you know, things like that. No, that's not Dark. It's not Dark. Like, it's good, but you gotta be ready for the emotional drain, because it's emotionally draining.
I'll put it on the list because you recommended to me a while ago Russian Doll, which just premiered its
Oh
season
yeah.
2, and that's gotten rave reviews. So I'm like, you know what? The first season got rave reviews, second season rave reviews. I'll put it on the list. Fuck it.
Well, yeah, Russian Doll is completely, because Russian Doll is also super serious, but also super fun. And Russian Doll is one of the best shows I've seen in years. Like, it's so good.
I have to ask
Maybe,
though, is
maybe I'm
Russian
gonna hype
Doll
it up.
just?
Yeah.
Go ahead, no, hype it up away because people need new things to watch on the road to House of the Dragon.
Russian Doll is it's a brilliant criticism of Groundhog's Day.
I was
It is
about
a
to ask you that. Is it basically Groundhog's Day?
It's Groundhog's Day, but the next step. Like, you know, if it were just one thing, you would. And I'm saying thematically, it's the next step. Like, it's a very direct criticism of Groundhog's Day. Because if you just watched it and somebody's like, oh, it's the plot of Groundhog's Day, it is, but they take it to a different, like, emotional and thematic level that is so beautiful and interesting and true and painful and wonderful. And like, I you know, I cannot say like enough good things about Russian Doll. But like, I doubt season 2 is going to be as good as season 1. You know, I'm just like, oh, how can they, because it's perfection. Like, season 1 of Russian Doll is perfection. And so it's like, there's no way they can do it again. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. Maybe season 2 will be great, but like, season 1 was just like, it was perfect. So.
Well, I'll put that on the list too because I gotta cut. There's a few things I'm watching now. Picard, which, oh god, Star Trek is so dead. Halo, which, oh god, Halo's so dead too. Like, everything is just dying in front. Everything I liked is just dying in front of me, Preston. So. Yeah, I'll give Dark. I'll give Russian Doll a shot. I wanted to watch Rome. That was on the list for a while. It's on HBO.
Russian Doll is fast. Russian Doll, you'll get through. It's breezy. You know, it's short, 30 minutes. Like, Dark, it's like everything's an hour, and it's tough.
The other thing that's also dark that we're watching is the Batman. We're both watching that, but. When I say we're watching it, like, I don't know about you, Preston, but like I gotta take breaks. I gotta get up and do all this shit. I gotta take a nap.
Well, that's the thing. The criticism that I heard of the Batman is that it was too long, and so like I'm purposely watching it in like short little 45-minute segments.
Same here.
And it's great. It's fucking fantastic.
The whole time I'm thinking,
I love it.
Great TV show.
I fucking love it. Oh my god, it would be such a great miniseries. It's just I'm so like, it's so good. But at the same time, I'm like, after watching a bit, I'm just like, if I were in a movie theater, like trapped for 3 hours, I'd be like, this sucks. So I love it. I love the fact that I'm streaming it at home and watching it in little pieces. I love it. But it's really good. Great. It's really good. Yeah, and Edward is really good at it.
Edward? You're talking about Edward Cullen. Yeah, for a minute there, I'm like, who? I know what you mean.
Yeah,
He's good.
Edward Cullen. Yeah.
So he's like a weirdo recluse goth kid in this one too. His
Yeah. But
Batman
it
is a
works,
different
right?
Batman. He's not a playboy. He's not a playboy guy going out and doing the thing.
Yeah.
He's more like, and I hate using this term. I hate using this term, but it has to be used because that's kind of what he is. He's kind of like a Sigma male. Oh god, I
Oh
hate using
yeah.
that term. Like a
What's
little bit, yeah.
what's what I guess I appreciate was the fact that the classic Batman, and actually every Batman that we've seen, had no problem juggling all of the balls that were like in front of him. Right? He was able
Hmm.
to, one, like be the playboy, two, run a successful business, and then three, be a fucking vigilante at night and and fight crime. Now, of course, like handling one of those things is like too much for one human being, right? Like,
Hmm.
like, but so it's not realistic that he's able to do all of them. And so what I do appreciate about the Batman is he's not handling them all. Like, like they like you know uh Albert, his butler. I'm sorry, did I get the name right? What
Andy
am I
Serkis,
getting? Yeah, yeah, Andy Serkis. Like
Alfred.
Alfred. Why did I call him Albert? Alfred is like, yeah, your business is like failing. Like we don't see you. You need to go to this board meeting. And he's just like, yeah, his like that would happen if you were spending your nights fighting crime.
And he's not just
Right.
spending his nights fighting crime. He's kind of like, I mean, Batman has always, on some level, stalked people, but you never got that feeling with
Yeah.
Michael Keaton or Christian Bale. This guy is like stalking Catwoman back to her house, watching her
Yeah.
like undress and dress, taking notes. Like he's doing all,
Oh,
doing
that's
all
the
this.
fourth ball. That's the fourth ball that Batman has to juggle, is his mental trauma, which of course like is paradoxical, right? Like his mental trauma leads him to be Batman, and yet he's able to somehow be Batman and a playboy and run a successful business with this mental trauma. Like it doesn't make any sense. If the trauma is so bad that he has to become a vigilante at night, the trauma would also be bad enough that he'd be unsuccessful in those other fronts, right?
No,
And so I do
100%.
like the fact.
This is
Yeah.
a more realistic portrayal. He's more grounded, and I like the noir feeling. It's great.
Yeah. It's funny because in many ways it feels more realistic than the Dark Knight.
The
Even though the
Dark
Dark Knight was supposed to be the more realistic Batman, right?
The Dark Knight, if you when you go back when you compare the two, it almost the Dark Knight almost kind of plays out like a Law and Order episode. Not really Law and Order, but like the way it's
Yeah,
shot
yeah.
and the way they handle things, it's kind of Law and Order y. This feels like a more like a noir film, which I really appreciate. I really like. He's just such a like a weirdo douche, and I kind of like it. I don't know. I just really I like this. I like this Batman. It's more grounded. He doesn't have all
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
super insane gadgets. He's got a couple here and there. His Batmobile is not like this crazy fucking like tank. It's like a roadster. It's cool. I like the
Yeah.
grounded feel of it.
But now, of course, we're only halfway through, so maybe by the end of the movie, we'll have completely different opinions.
I'm
So
like an
we'll
hour
see.
in.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
If
We'll come
anything,
back
like
with part two and be like, "We were wrong, guys. We were wrong."
well,
But
I hope I'm not
man,
spoiling it for you. Well, I hope I'm not spoiling for you when I say this, but for some reason, the Batman has pissed off a lot of right wingers. So I can
huh?
only assume that they made the Riddler some kind of weirdo white supremacist. Like that's I can only assume that they've done that because for some like it takes a lot for Ben Shapiro to cry about it, and I'm assuming that's why he's crying about it. I'm assuming.
I don't know. It
I don't
doesn't take
know.
it. First of all, it doesn't take that much for Ben Shapiro to cry over something. Like, okay, he
Person's
he
other
gets
arch
upset.
nemesis.
He gets upset about every little thing. So
I mean, he's got to run that grift. That's a lot of money over there. He's got to run that
yeah,
grift.
he
Sell
does have
those
to run.
ads.
He does have to run that, and that's the thing, is it is a grift with him because he grew up in like a liberal LA family, and he wanted to get into Hollywood, and then he was a failed scriptwriter, and so he was like, fine, I'm going to become a right wing pundit, and he became a very successful right wing pundit, but That's not as like.
Isn't that the
that's
plot
not as
for
bad.
Steve Bannon as well?
It is. It's
Wanted to
plot
get
for a
into
lot of these people. I mean,
Hollywood. Yeah, wanted to get into
it's the same.
Hollywood, and they rejected him, and he became Trump's right hand man. Like that's the
Yeah,
plot for Steve Bannon.
it's a plot for Trump. I mean, there's a plot for a lot of these people. Like it's like
That is
it's
true.
like they don't really care. Yeah, well, we're off track, but they don't really. They don't care which direction their power pushes. They just want power to push in a direction. So it's like it's very odd. It's very odd to not really care about the result, but to just care about being the instrument. But yeah, but I don't
You know
know.
what the
I mean, I
problem
would never
is?
be a.
Their problem is they're not
Good.
getting enough Raid Shadow Legend sponsorships, which brings me to the next topic of the video. This video was brought to you. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But no. So I'm watching Batman. I'm taking it, one step at a time. I recommend it to everybody. I'm an hour in. I think you're a little behind me, which is fine. Everybody, you guys got to watch the Batman. It's great. It's on HBO Max. And a pirating website near you. So definitely check it out. It's really good. I highly recommend it. So far, I may feel different towards the end, but no, the Batman. I hope they connected to the Joker with Joaquin Phoenix because they need to start making these DC films mean and matter. Because that's something I appreciate about
Yeah.
Marvel is that every Marvel property you watch that's done by Disney, not Sony, it matters.
Yeah, but there might be an age problem though. Like that was one comment people made about the Joker. Like how old is Joaquin Phoenix? Like
Oh, that's true.
he must be like 40, 45, right, or something. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I'm gonna look up how old he is. He's 47. So he was what, like 45 in the Joker. So and Batman
they
is
could
like
play it. He's just a young guy, though. Like they could play him because I remember there's this one guy I used to know way back when, and he was in his late 20s, but because he worked in government and it just stressed him out, he looked like he was in his early 40s. I'm sure you've seen that too. So,
by the way, did you know that Jared Leto is 50?
no, that's impossible. Jared Leto
Yeah.
is not 50. Let me see this. I'm looking
Jared
this up
Leto's
right
50
now.
years old.
That's wow. What? He does not
Right.
look 50. He does
Right,
not look
right.
50 at all.
I mean, I think people don't think of it because he was playing like on a teen drama. Like I think his first gig was like My So-Called Life, and he was playing like a teenager. And so even though he was in his 20s, and so everybody kind of thought he was younger than he was. But yeah, no, Jared Leto is like really, really quite old. I mean, it's funny to think like, but. Yeah, so but I mean still though it's weird for Joker to be 30 years older than Batman, cuz like Batman like beats him up or something. It's like if Batman's like 30, he's beating up a 60-year-old man, Like how do you have a physical fight? But whatever.
Jared Leto is one of those actors who randomly appears in movies that I like. Like he randomly appeared as I was watching Fight Club. I didn't realize, but he's in Fight Club. He was in American
Yeah.
Psycho, which I liked. He was in Lord of War.
Blade Runner 2, Blade Runner 2.
Was he in Blade Runner 2? He was in
Yeah,
Alexander?
yeah.
He's in Alexander
all
with
sorts,
Colin
yeah.
Farrell and Angelina Jolie. I don't remember that. Wow. Damn, he appears out of fucking nowhere. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Pretty insane. Okay.
Well, so we've that's what I'm watching. Unfortunately, Star Trek Picard. Unfortunately, Halo. Both suck. Save yourselves. The Batman. I might start another new show. I might either start Dark or Russian Doll. But
Yeah. I've also been watching Attack on Titan, which I know that you
Attack on Titan.
seen
or Attack
everything
on the Titan.
Well, it's funny because I think it's called Attack on. Is it Attack on the Titan? Because it should be it should be Attack on the Titans. Attack on. I think I always get it wrong because there's a movie called Remember the Titans, right?
I know.
So
Yeah, the football one.
I think it's Attack on Titan.
Yes, it
So it
is.
sounds like it sounds like it's an attack on the planet, on the moon of Titan, but in fact it's literally attack on the Titans because it's a bunch of Titans that they're attacking, right?
Yes, and I'm not really watching it because I've already read the manga. The way it works, for those of you who don't know, is when it comes to Japanese comics, the manga comes out first, and if the manga is successful, they'll make an anime that follows the manga. I've already finished the whole story.
Yeah.
I know how
And
it ends.
usually anime is fairly faithful to the source material in both
Sometimes.
in both visual style and story. I'm not saying there aren't going to be
Yes.
like small variations here and there, but I've only read like, okay, the two things this is me. I'm a noob, the two mangas and animes that I've seen that I can compare are Akira and Death Note, right?
Of course.
And so yeah, there's some differences. Like I think the Akira manga is pretty different from the anime, but the Death Note manga is pretty close to the anime. So I don't know. But yeah, it's I guess it depends. Yeah, but
Well,
I guess after reading the Death Note one, I was like, oh, this is pretty close. There's differences, but it's pretty close.
I'm always surprised that you've actually went into Death Note. But as for Attack on Titan, I think it's great. I think everybody should give it at least a shot if they like it. But the real one that people are going to be bitching at you to check out is Berserk. Now, you have to avoid
But
the 2016.
but right, but Berserk is
2017.
it's never ends. You know, the guy dies, right? So
Yeah,
the author dies. So
the author died last year. Yeah, so it's still definitely worth the ride. It's intense. It's insane. I highly recommend everybody check out Berserk. It's great. Even though the author died, and his assistants can carry on and kind of finish it because when he did
Yeah.
die, according to him, he was like 80% done with the story. So I'm sure his assistants could carry on, but no. So he's
now with Attack on Titan, I guess from what people have told me, they like the broader story, the science fiction elements and the fantasy elements of it are more interesting than the character interaction. Like some people do like the character interaction, but I think that's second to the plot.
yes.
While some anime is more about the character interaction, where you're like, I mean, Death Note, for example, is mainly about the character interaction.
Right.
Not so much the plot. Not that the plot isn't interesting, but it's more about like, how L is interacting with light and stuff like that. But yeah, here it's not, most of the characters are kind of stock anime characters, given stock anime backgrounds, So it hasn't like pulled me in where I'm just like I need to see the next thing. But people tell me like, oh no, the story is interesting, so keep going because the story is going to get interesting. I was like, okay.
Well, where are you now?
Like maybe 7 episodes in.
This is the first season.
It's tough because like yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how like an episode is 2 episodes. You know how that kind of stuff where they how they do it on Netflix where it's like 2 episodes is 1 episode. I don't know, but so I don't know how many episodes. I forget how many episodes I'm in.
Well,
But
what I can tell you is keep going. It's great. I really liked it. I thought it was awesome. I feel like every episode ends on a nice little cliffhanger to keep you going. But no, I personally think it gets better and better and better. It does stumble in season 3 part 1, but in season 3 part 2 is one of the best pieces of animation I've ever seen. It's fucking fantastic. So Attack on Titan, you're on it. Good stuff. And don't spoil it for yourself. Don't read the wiki.
Okay.
Don't do what I did with Westworld season 1, where did I tell you how I spoiled like, the biggest like plot point of Westworld season 1 with the Man in Black?
Oh no, really? Okay.
Oh, I didn't tell you about this.
I mean, so yeah. I mean, it was spoiled for me too because I was doing Westworld by like watching the episode and then reading all of the fun theories and like participating in like fandom speculation, which I found really fun with Westworld. And so yeah, everything was spoiled. Like I never had that moment on screen where I was like, oh my God. But I found the fandom speculation's so much fun that I had to stick with it. Like that was the best part for me. But
Well, I missed that, but
uh,
for me, I watched Westworld after like it all came out, and the Men in Black was such an enigma that I got impatient. I wanted to know more about him, and that's when I spoiled that the Men in Black and young William are just really the same person. They're different
yeah,
timelines, which would have been great.
yeah,
Would have
yeah,
been great.
would have been great. Yeah, yeah. Certain things are
At least the
spoiled.
Bernard reveal caught me off guard, so that was cool. But other than that, you know,
Yeah,
don't do that to yourself with Attack on
yeah.
Titan. Don't read the wiki.
Okay, okay,
Just keep going,
okay.
and eventually we'll get you on Berserk. Don't worry, guys. I'll get him on it. Berserk is great, even though the guy died. It's okay. We can still get into it. It's still good. Preston, do you have anything else you would like to discuss for this episode?
I think I think that's all. Unless you wanted to briefly discuss. Carmine came to me and was like, hey, "Did you know about this J.K. Rowling thing with George R.
Oh
Martin?"
yeah,
And I was like, "Yeah,
I
I
totally
know
forgot
about
to do
that."
this.
Yeah.
I totally forgot to do this when we did the segment with George a minute ago. So apparently George doesn't like J.K. Rowling because he got snubbed at the Hugo Awards. What happened?
Well, this is some big speculation about something that happened literally 21 years ago. But if you want to go on that, like, so George R. R. Martin really likes the Hugo Awards and like those sci-fi awards, and it's mainly because these are people like the judging panel and everything are people he's known his whole life. The writers that get nominated are often people he knows. It's very, very fun for him. He never misses the Hugos. The Hugos has been part of his life like forever. It's very, very important to him. Like he writes blog entries about the politics of the Hugos and how they were getting criticized for being too liberal, and he was like fighting back against that and stuff like that. And so one year now he's won Hugos for a lot of short stories and novellas, as well as for like being a producer. But like his short story writing, I think he won for A Song for Leah won, Sand Kings won, I think The Way of Cross and Dragon won, and Blood of the Dragon, which is the Dany chapters from A Game of Thrones, won. Nebulas. I mean, not Nebulas, Hugos. But none of the Ice and Fire novels have ever won Best Novel. They've been nominated. A Storm of Swords was nominated, A Feast for Crows was nominated, and A Dance with Dragons was nominated. And none of them have won. And the year that A Storm of Swords was nominated and his novel Dying of the Light was also nominated and it didn't win. But so the year A Storm of Swords was nominated, which was 2001, the Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire was nominated and won the Hugo that year. Now, J.K. Rowling, she was fairly new to the fantasy genre. Keep in mind that she was she was a housewife that just kind of wrote these children's books like on the side, right? Like she was not like an established writer in the writing community and things like that. And so, she didn't really know what the Hugos were, and she didn't go to pick up to accept her award, and she didn't send anyone to accept her award. She won and apparently didn't even know that she had won, like it was that kind of situation. So we're talking like George R. R. Martin, most important thing in his life, the Hugos. He loves it, thinks it's really important. And then, this woman that wrote a book and didn't even know what the Hugos were. And so, her novel wins over A Storm of Swords. And so no one really kind of knows how hurt or not George was. Like sometimes people describe it as playful rancor. Like he'll be like, "Oh, that J.K. Rowling, But people don't know if he's like being ironic or serious or pretending to be ironic when he's actually serious, which is something that we all do. But if you actually read, if you actually like look at a lot of his stuff, he is the thing that actually clues me into the fact that he doesn't really like Harry Potter very much is that he doesn't mention J.K. Rowling very much. He doesn't actually talk about her very much, considering like J.K. Rowling is so huge, and her books were so important to the fantasy genre. He doesn't talk about her very much, So maybe he doesn't. I would suspect that he just doesn't like her writing versus he really, after 20 years, he's still bitter about this loss because he's lost a lot of Hugos and he's won a lot of Hugos. So I don't think he cares about this particular loss that much, but I don't know if he would appreciate her writing. Her writing style is very different from his. And many English majors and big writers like criticize J.K. Rowling's writing as not being good writing. Even though I don't know, I think it's good writing, and but they're like, oh, it doesn't matter if it's good writing or not, it's the story, and it's like, well, she wouldn't have been this successful if it didn't speak to people.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. I think the big criticism people make of J.K. Rowling is she uses adverbs a lot, and this is like a writing 101 thing, like don't use adverbs. You're like, okay. Adverbs exist. So.
Well, good thing for George that people have new things to hate on J.K. Rowling for. So his dislike is justified.
This happened. Like I said, this happened 21 years ago. So does he care? Like after this much time, I don't know. I don't think so. People can be bitter for a long time. People can be bitter for 5 years. People can be bitter for 10 years. But it's hard to be bitter for more than a decade. So I don't know.
We'll see about that.
And then again, I don't know. I mean, Michael Jordan is still bitter at all those like people that wronged him from 40 years back. So who knows?
We'll see, homie. We'll see, because there's still some people that hate you. So we'll see how long they hate you for. At the 10-year mark, we'll revisit that later.
We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I don't. It's hard to imagine. But it's she didn't do anything consciously. She just didn't know this awards existed and didn't care. Like, I don't know. Like, when did you find out that the Hugos existed?
I didn't know until you just told me.
I'm kidding. See, there you go.
Preston, do you mind if we wrap it up here?
Sure thing.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we'll see you next time. Have a good one.